Hi everyone, it's Nicole Spohr and welcome back to my channel. Today I have some rainbow critter scene cards using new add-on products from the Hero Arts My Monthly Hero April 2021 release. I've got this fun under the water scene and then a cute little caterpillar, rainbow caterpillar scene card. Each uses different stamps, dies, and even the fish card features a stencil from the release. We're going to start with our little outdoor bug scene. I am going to be using this darling little leaf and caterpillar. That's kind of what inspired the card. I wasn't exactly sure the direction I wanted to go with this one when I started. I wasn't sure what background I wanted to use. I just knew I wanted to use the leaf and the caterpillar. And some cards start that way. Some cards don't start with a actual plan in mind. Not very often does this happen, but I think I was just at one of those kind of lows where I wasn't exactly sure what I was going to do there. I am using this Stamper's Secret tool to help press my MISTI closed. I am linking to that in the supplies. It just helps instead of having to push with your hand, or a lot of times you'll see me use my sleeve kind of to protect my hand and to push really hard. It's like this handle wooden block tool. It's really awesome. And it helps alleviate a lot of pain in my hand from pressing the MISTI shut with firm enough pressure to get a good stamped impression. I am doing some no-line coloring today with Tombow dual brush pens, markers, whatever you want to call them there. I am still absolutely loving them. I did stamp my images on Arch's cold press watercolor cardstock. I recently had a question from a viewer asking why I call it cold press. That is the name of the watercolor cardstock I'm using. It is from Arch's. Cold press, kind of just in the most easy terms, it's pretty forgiving, especially for those of us like myself that maybe might be kind of new to watercolor or just want something that's going to give you really good results. Hot press is got a lot slicker of a surface, and therefore, at least from what I've read, I've not used it myself, so take that with a grain of salt, I suppose. But from everything I have read online, it's a slick surface and it's not as forgiving, and probably maybe a little bit better for those who are more experienced with watercolor. But it's totally up to you. I would suggest trying out different mediums of paper to see what you get the best results. I love this Arch's watercolor cardstock for water type of watercolor projects. The great thing about the Tombow dual brush markers is you can use them with or without water. You'll notice I did use some water on the leaf. I'm not really using it for the caterpillar. These sections are super teeny tiny. I don't really want the water running into each section. I want it to be very rainbow, and he has a ton of sections. He's really, really cute. I love this caterpillar. And so that's kind of my thinking and thought process for this. I am using the Lawn Fawn Jellyfish No Line Coloring ink, if I didn't mention that before. It's my favorite ink for no line coloring. Kind of doing a little outline with my darker color and then blending out with my lighter. And then we'll go back in with a black fine tip pen. I am using Tombow Mono black pens. I believe I'm using the 3, pardon me, tip there. So not the finest tip that I have, kind of like a medium tip pen to draw in the legs and the eye. Once my leaf dried, I felt like I lost a little too much of the detail. So when I added the water. So I'm going back in with a couple of my markers and just adding in a little bit more leaf detail before die cutting these two images. So I knew I wanted to use these two. That's kind of how I started out. From a sheet of 4 by 5 1/4 inch watercolor cardstock, again, this is the Arch's cardstock, I have die cut the soft landscape window fancy die, also from the release, and I am going to color in my scene with my markers again, this time utilizing a lot more water. So you're going to see that I'm going to color in the trees. I'm using all kinds of different green color combinations here, anything from the dark green to the limey green, as well as kind of a mint color combination. And we're going to color all these cute little trees in. I love these window dies from Hero Arts. They come out with quite a few of these in the monthly add-on releases for the My Monthly Hero release, and I always think they're just so fun. They're an instant scene builder, which is really, really nice. I also think this would be really cute with the other stamp, one of the other stamp set. There's quite a few. But the sun that I'm going to use for this card is from the You Lift Me Up, but there's also some additional mountains, trees, a tent, clouds, a hot air balloon, a sailboat. So any of these would be cute in the background of this card to help build up a scene there as well. Imagine maybe like the little tent and things down below, and then you could have like bigger mountains back in the background or whatever you want to do. I'm taking my time coloring these in. You'll notice that I kind of got outside the lines on this tree, but I'm able to fix it. I went ahead and colored it, cleaned the tip of my marker, so I've just got water, and I'm taking it along the edge and trying to kind of quote unquote erase my mistake. I think that I was able to at least lighten it so that it's not so glaringly obvious that I colored outside the lines there, and not in a good way. You know, there's the good way of coloring outside the lines, and then there's that way, and that was not the good way. Anyway, I'm going to save my tree trunks for a little bit later, which I want to do in brown. But I also want to add some greenery to the landscape. I think that little, I'm making it a stream, but I think you could also turn it into a road if you wanted to. But I want to add some green to my landscape because the background, the opening, this is where I'm going to feature my sentiment for this card, but I also want it to be the sky. And that's going to be watercolored in blue, which we'll do here in a little bit. So I'm simply laying down a little bit of my green and mint color and then just doing a really soft wash, pulling that color out to color in the landscape down below. And I think this really helps ground everything and add to the overall feel of my scene card. Just really, really soft and pulling lots of that color out and around. And again, very soft wash the further from that I get. Kind of playing around, making sure everything's still kind of looking the way I want it to look. This card was a work in progress. I don't know why it took so long, but it did. A little chocolate, and I feel like I put this is burnt sienna. So that's going to be the mountains, the tree trunks. I will watercolor those mountains there. The tree trunks I did not. I just put the color straight down. And then some blues for that little stream that we're going to add. And that's going to be it for the front panel of our card after we get that blue color down there. But we are going to need to trim a piece of watercolor cardstock that goes back behind this panel that we can do a really pretty blue wash on to create that background for our card. And you want to make sure you're letting this dry if you're adding water to it, especially before you watercolor right next to a section. So I was trying to kind of let it dry each time completely, or most of the way anyway, before I tried to add any extra color to this. I also want to add a ladybug to my card. So I went back and picked a ladybug from our Bug You stamp set because I think that would be a cute little touch. And I have mentioned this in the past, but I don't know that I've mentioned it for a while, how much I love adding red to my cards. And this is a really good example of that, where yes, there's a little bit of red in the caterpillar, but adding that red ladybug and then we'll add some little red heart accents really just is a beautiful design element on this card. So I colored him in really, or her in really quick, and we will die cut the ladybug. And then we are going to create the blue wash of color for our background from an additional panel of watercolor cardstock. It probably doesn't have to measure the same as the front panel, although mine does. So it's 4 by 5¼ inches, just enough that it will cover the background here. And I went ahead and scribbled some blues onto my glass mat, and I'm picking them up with the water brush pen and adding them to my cardstock to get this beautiful wash. This is a lot more water than I've used anywhere else on the card. And I'm kind of continuing to just add that color in to build up the intensity. I don't want it to be super dark. I want it to still coordinate with my scene that you can see coming together. But I need it to be, you know, a definite blue color. And then I need to let that dry completely all the way. In fact, I think mine dried overnight. And I came back the next day to work on it. Now I want to do a little sunshine, and I loved the sunshine from You Lift Me Up. And so we are going to go ahead and watercolor this stamp. So take our Tombow markers and go ahead and ink them with the marker, or ink the stamp with the markers. So color in the individual areas. I like to use a mini mister then to spritz it with water and stamp it. So you see you're getting that watercolor look. The intensity isn't quite where I want it yet, but I am going to let that sit and dry while I work on our sentiment, which is going to be much the same technique as the sun. So I've got this sentiment from Bug You, and I'm going to stamp it over our watercolor wash background. And I'm using some green markers to stamp that. So what I'm going to do is do the big word first, which is bug. Just wanted to bug you, which I think is so cute. It's a really fun take on a hello card that isn't, you know, hello. And I just thought it was really cute and clever. So I am just coloring those in with different colors of green ink and then spritzing it with a little water and stamping it. I highly suggest a Misty for this because it just makes the stamping so easy, because you're going to need to do it more than once. Then I just used a dark color for the rest of the words, a dark green color, and went ahead and stamped those. And that is how I get the beautiful layering of our cute little background there. Our panel is completely dry at this point, so I am going to go ahead and back the whole thing with some nice foam adhesive. I believe this is some Gina K foam adhesive. It's a nice low profile adhesive. I want my panel to pop up over the background and kind of just highlight the just wanted to bug you sentiment. I've sped that up a bit because it's not really that interesting to watch the foam tape go in place. The foam tape backing sometimes can be a little hard to get off. A pair of tweezers often will work. I mean, I'm using my nails and tweezers. I don't know why I'm holding the tweezers and not using them. I actually ended up grabbing a different set of tweezers that worked a little better. I'm going to pop that over the background, and then we're going to put our cute little caterpillar in place. We do need to pop him up with foam adhesive. We've laid our leaf down. We've added our ladybug, and now it's finishing details before we move on to our underwater ocean scene card, which is so fun. So I've got a white top fold card base we're going to adhere our panel to. I will tell you, my panel didn't want to stick up at the top at all. It had a little bit of warping. It is watercolor cardstock. I did introduce water to it. So what I ended up doing after this, I put some liquid glue underneath the panel and put those Stampers Secret tools on top. and held it down so it stayed in place. So if you ever have that trouble, I just suggest a little liquid adhesive, something nice and strong. I use the Hero Arts Precision Glue, and then I just put acrylic blocks or a book or something heavy with some substantial weight over the top of it and hold that down so it glues down and stays put. Now you'll notice I got my sunshine back from the You Lift Me Up stamp set, and I added some darker colors for some beautiful layering. And then I'm using my Misty again with the Stamper's Secret to add in that extra darkness for the sunshine, which I really love. We're going to go ahead and pop our cute little sunshine in place. And I think this just balances out the design beautifully. The top of the card didn't have a lot going on. There's a lot in the center and down near the bottom, but nothing up the top. So the sun provides a beautiful pop of color that just gives the sunshine to this cute card design. Then we're going to take our little red heart accents like I mentioned earlier, and I'm going to have one on the sun and then a couple down here by the trees, either on the tree or by the tree. I was only going to add one, but I kind of liked the addition of a couple more. So that is going to be it, you guys. So much fun. I love this bug stamp set. There's a praying mantis, there's butterfly, I think a dragonfly, a grasshopper, really, really cute. For our ocean scene background, we are ink blending Pool Party Splash and Blue Hawaii Reactive inks on a smooth white cardstock panel that measures 4 by 5¼ inches. I've applied the splash ink to the center of my panel, Pool Party up at the top, and then Blue Hawaii at the bottom, working to get a seamless blend. So yes, this did take a little bit of work, but I love these colors. I love how they work together. And if you have seen any of my other videos where I'm working with the Hero Hues Reactive inks, I love them. They are beautiful, beautiful colors, and to me, they're like the Skittles colors. They are just bright, happy, fun. You are able to use water with them. So if you like Tim Holtz Distress inks, Distress Oxide inks, and you like when water reacts with it, you're going to love these inks. I highly, highly recommend them. I love the colors. What I ended up doing was blending the colors, and I'm going to actually spritz this panel with water using a Distress sprayer first. And you can see the oxidation. You can see the water wicking the ink away, leaving some great little lighter areas. And I'm going to let that dry. We're going to let it dry, then we're going to come back to our new stencil. This is the Flowy Stripes stencil that we're going to use some sea salt reactive ink, which is the white reactive ink, with this, and it's just going to lighten some of the areas. It is super light, but I love the little layering and the little look you're going to get here with the sea salt reactive ink. And I kept lifting up my stencil, making sure that I was getting a good result. And I am. Now, the one thing is, if you are going to stamp and emboss over the top of this, these do take a while to dry. I did stamp and emboss. I did not get a good stamped impression. I am going to cut that out of the video, but I do want to mention it to you guys because I think it's worth noting. If you're going to stamp and emboss, let this dry all the way. Hit it with a heat tool. Even at that, sometimes I don't think it dries great. My best advice is to let it sit and dry. I probably let mine set and dry for 24 hours. I did have a huge break between starting and finishing this. And then while it's drying, I did stamp a bunch of the fish from the graphic REEF stamp set. So there's 2 fish. There's like coral and seaweed, a shell, I believe, starfish, all kinds of good stuff in this stamp set. There's like, oh, there's even a little sailboat. So that's a cute little thing. Oh, and a little crab too. So lots of fun things to color. And then some great sentiments. Completely so cool. Definitely graphic. I love the name of it. And I've stamped them with no line coloring ink. We're coloring them in with the Tombow dual brush markers again. Really, really cute. And you'll notice, yes, they are going to be in rainbow color. So maybe not realistic at all, but hey, these are graphic. This is fun. It's card making. Do whatever you want here. So we've got the bright blue background with 3 colors of reactive ink. We're going to have an assortment of beautiful rainbow fish. The only color I didn't use for fish is yellow, and I didn't because I did their eyes all in yellow and I didn't want to do yellow on yellow, but we will feature some coral done in a yellow color combination. So every color you can imagine here. We've got pink, red, orange, limey green, kind of an aqua green, blue, and purple. I like to lay down, again, the dark color first, then the lighter color. Usually only one lighter color, but for the orange fish, I actually ended up pulling in some yellow into the fish. Blends really nice with these oranges. I did not use water for these images. I felt like you'd lose a little bit of too much definition, I guess. And so I opted instead to just use the markers only on the arches, cold press watercolor cardstock. And then after they dried for a few minutes, like I would generally color in another fish or two, I would go back with a black pen and add the detail into their eye with I think that same black pen I've been using on the previous card. And it really brings the fish to life. On the finished card, I did put crystal lacquer over the eyes so they kind of bug out a little bit and they have that nice glossy finish to them. And I'll show you that at the end of the video. All the colors of markers I'm using are shown across the top of the screen. They are listed on my blog post as well. So if you are wondering exactly which markers I used, you can find that information there. I know the Tombow markers, I know you can get them individually, which I have done before, like from Dick Blick when one has dried out, which hasn't happened to me for very many of these, but 1 or 2 of them, actually it wasn't dried out. I've ruined the tips and that was on me. I did that. So I've replaced a couple of them and I've bought them individually from there, but you can buy them in sets from a lot of retailers. And I think that they are just really super fun. I recently added a lot of these to my collection, but before that, I really just had a few that I used for lots of different cards, but I don't know what the deal is, but I've really been loving them lately. They're a nice alternative to the Zig Clean Color Real Brush marker pens if you like that look. I'm coloring and using them much the same way that I use Zigs. The only difference is these are a little bit more versatile in that you can use them on Bristol Smooth cardstock, which is the only cardstock I use Zigs on. You can use them on watercolor cardstock here. I don't use Zigs on any other paper, so it's nice to have a marker that's a little more versatile as far as you can switch up the paper that you're using them on. And I really like that about these. Plus the colors are a little bit different. Almost not at, I mean, they're bright. Don't get me wrong. You're seeing bright markers here, but I just feel like they're maybe not quite so in your face. Maybe I'm wrong. Who knows? But I just really, they're just different colors. And I like that. I love having different options. I've stamped 2 sentiments from the graphic REEF stamp on some smooth white cardstock. You can see that I originally stamped it on the background, which it would have been great in white embossed. But I shifted it because it didn't stamp and emboss well the first time. So I tried to stamp and emboss it again, and even in the Misty, it didn't get lined up exactly correctly. So I ended up stamping it on separate paper using Splash and Blue Hawaii reactive inks, and I actually like it better. I can't believe I'm saying that, but I do. I really like it. I like that it's popped up, and I'm decided to pop all my fish up with foam adhesive as well. So we got our purple, pink, and red fish up here at the top. We're going to have our orange and lime green kind of down here right below the sentiment. And then our aqua and blue. And we're going to finish off with some coral and seaweed along the bottom. I originally had the seaweed colored, and I think I did that off camera. I'm sorry. That's just some shades of green. I wasn't entirely sure I was going to use it, and so I didn't worry about it. And then I got to the end and I was like, yeah, I think I want to add that. And I think I'm going to add some coral too. So we're going to use like a red marker to outline the one piece of coral, because it's not really an outline. It's just kind of just a line art image that I stamped with the Lawn Fawn Jellyfish No Line Coloring ink. And I love that about the ink, is that you can do that. You could also stamp it with a red ink if you wanted to. I will tell you, I didn't, because I wanted it to have the same look, same kind of color family and everything as the rest of the images on my card. The other coral image, which I ended up adding after the fact, because I played around with it, trying to decide if I needed 3. And let's face it, you've heard me say I do my embellishments in 3. I knew all along I was going to do another one. I should have just done it, but I didn't. And I am going to stamp and color that last one with some kind of orange, yellows and oranges. But I am popping these up, and I'm using some little thin strips of foam adhesive that I absolutely love. It's the same adhesive I always use for my sentiment strips. But it's it can be bendy if you remove the backing paper, so it's going to work behind these little images really well. And then we are going to stamp our last little coral image, and I have used and abused this little sheet of watercolor cardstock, but I want to get every little piece of it utilized. And you can see I originally stamped that caterpillar and started coloring it and didn't like the color combination, so I restamped that image, but I'm going to save that leaf for another card. We're going to attach then this coral in the bottom right corner of our scene. And then I didn't do it earlier because I wasn't sure. Well, I was sure. I wanted the bubbles from the Graphic REEF stamp set, but there's not a coordinating die. So I had originally stamped and colored them on a piece of watercolor cardstock. And I got to the dies and I was like, oh, are you kidding? And so I ended up stamping them on my background with Splash Reactive ink. And then I'm going to just add some Hero Arts crystal lacquer to some of the bubbles and to the eyes on my fish. It's going to give them a glossy raised finish, which is perfect. And that is going to finish off our Under the Sea birthday themed card. Thank you guys so much for joining me today for this video showcasing some awesome rainbow scene critter cards featuring add-ons from the Hero Arts April 2021 My Monthly Hero release. The supplies I used to create my cards are listed and linked below the video here on YouTube. Here is another video featuring Hero Arts My Monthly Hero products that you might be interested in. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell to never miss a new card making video. Thank you guys so much for joining me today and always, and I appreciate it so much. And we'll see you next time.